Welcome back to Krenkoscorner. Today's EDH deck tech is going to be on Nikia of the Old Ways. She's a legendary centaur druid for 3 red and a green 5/5 creature. And she has, you can't cast non-creature spells, and whenever you tap a land for mana, add 1 mana of any type that land produced. So she's very strong as she is, as she can get that extra mana as soon as she hits down. But, as soon as she hits the field, you can no longer cast non-creature spells. So that's no sorceries, no instants, no enchantments, no artifacts, no planeswalkers. So you can be at a disadvantage right away if you're not careful. So let's start off the deck right away with some artifacts. Oh, wait a minute. There aren't any artifacts in this deck. Oh, there's also no instants either. Okay, well, let's start with enchantments. Rhythm of the Wild. That allows your creatures that can't be countered, non-token creatures you control, have Riot. Oh, that's all the enchantments. Okay. Primal Surge. Sorcery. For 8 and double green, exile top card of your library. If it's a permanent card, you may put it onto the battlefield. If you do, repeat this process. I think you can see where this is going to go in this deck, because everything else in the entire deck is creatures. So with Primal Surge hits, you flip your entire library over, and it's basically game. So let's get right into the creatures. That's the meat of the deck. Lightspring Druid. Get that ramp going. Ravager Worm. Well, what's not to like about this card? It's beautiful. Apocalypse Hydra. When it enters battlefield, with X 1/1 counters on it, if X is 5 or more, enters battlefield with an additional X 1/1 counters. For 1 red, remove a 1/1 counter from it, and it deals 1 damage to any target. Well, pretty much you can machine gun the board if you need to. Itali, Primal Storm. I want what's on top of your library. Hydra Broodmaster. This thing can get really out of hand. Lana War Scout. Gives a little extra land onto the battlefield. Spellbreaker Behemoth. Can't be countered, and creatures you control with power 5 or greater, they can't be countered either. Just a little extra safety net. Duskwatch Recruiter. It allows us to get a little bit of tutor on that top of the library, and if they don't cast its spells, we'll get the other side. Beast Whisperer gives us that green draw that we desperately need, and since there's so many creatures, we'll be drawing quite a bit. Artisan of Kozilek. Well, it's got Annihilator too. Can't go wrong there. Flame Blast Dragon. Another dragon gives you a flying option in the deck, and if you do, you can get that extra bonus of attacking to a target creature or player. Zealous Conscripts. Take control of something they have for turn. Make sure you use it very wisely. Vizier of the Menagerie. Looking at the top card of your library is great, and then being able to cast the top card if it's a creature. Wonderful, since most of our deck is creatures as it is. And then you may spend mana of any mana or type to cast creature spells. Scarred Guildmage just gives us a little bit of extra. We can create an elemental if we need to, but mainly we're using this to give trample to all of our creatures to win the game. Manglehorn. Artifacts that opponents control enter the battlefield tapped, and we don't have any to worry about, and then we can destroy one of theirs. Generally, we're probably going to destroy something that's a problem, or something to slow them down. Grand Warlord Rada. Whenever one or more creatures you control attack, add that much mana in any combination of red and or green until end of turn, and you don't lose mana as steps and phases end. She's strong as it is, and this deck really could be around her if you wanted to. Lana War Elves for some more ramp. Satyr Wayfinder. When enters the battlefield, you get to reveal those top 4 cards of your library, put a land card from among them into your hand, put the rest into your graveyard. This just helps us kind of cycle through the deck a little bit. Dawn Treader Elk. We're using this to sacrifice it just to get that basic land into play. Kogla, the Titan Ape. This was recently added, wasn't in here earlier, but getting that extra fighting ability on there is a 7/6. When it attacks, you get destroy an artifact or enchantment defending player controls. Since there are a lot of problem enchantments, things like Smothering Tide, Rhystic Study, this will help kind of slow opponents down. And if you want, you can return a target human you control to its owner's hand, and then Kogla gains indestructible to end of turn. Magus of the Candelabra. Simple turn 1, you get it onto the field. Spend X to untap X lands. Gives you some options if you are running out of the colors you need or just need to take care of some other lands. Molder Slug. At the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact. So since we won't have any artifacts to sacrifice, every turn this is just going to slow down our opponents, and they'll have to deal with this. Yisan, the Wanderer Bard. So putting those verse counters on there each turn, since you have the extra mana to do so, allows us to go get one of those creatures that we really want to hit the battlefield. Fierce Empath, again, a tutor for it, one of our big creatures, and then get into our hands so we can kind of get something big and nasty out. Somberwald Sage for some mana ramp for only creatures, and since again this is all creatures, we have nothing to worry about. Genesis Hydra, it's a great card, especially when you put a lot of mana into it, being able to get so much onto the battlefield and then just shuffle your library. Any amount is good in this, and then just getting the extra counters on him. Just want to give him something like Trample to make sure he's more useful. Mina and Den Wildborn, they're great as they are because you get that additional land drop, and then you can return a land you control so that another creature gains Trample. This is just amazing with this deck. Gruul Spellbreaker, 3/3 for 3 with Riot and Trample, and as long as it's your turn, you and the Gruul Spellbreaker have Hexproof. Using this mostly for yourself, not the Gruul Spellbreaker. That's not the make or break on this, but we want to make sure we get Hexproof. Rurik Thar, which could have been the commander as well, but he has to attack every turn, and whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, Rurik Thar deals 6 damage to that player, so he could easily be the commander in this deck if you want to swap it out, since there are only 2 non-creature spells, but being able to do that 6 damage to anybody is really nasty. Steel Hellkite, again, just an amazing card with flying. Be able to buff it up if we want to, or destroy each non-land permanent with the CMC X, whose control is dealt damage by the Steel Hellkite. So this is excellent if we want to shut him down. Garruk's Pack Leader, just for the draw. Uvenwald Hydra, just for that fight mechanic. I'm not a big fan of the fight, but there are definitely a lot of instances where this can be detrimental to other players. Reclamation Sage, just being able to destroy an artifact or enchantment. Again, there's just so many problem ones out there. We do want something like this. Conquering Manticore, with another flying creature, and being able to steal one of their creatures, like Zealous Conscripts, does give us some options. There's always something to steal. Frontier Guide, just being able to search our library for a basic land, put on the battlefield tapped. It is a little expensive for her ability, but sometimes we just want the extra lands. Arbor Elf, just for the be able to untap a target forest. Endray's Forerunners, this pretty much can end the game as well because it's got Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Other creatures we control get +2/+2, Vigilance, and Trample. So if you flip this with the Primal Surge, your whole field is got the bonuses, the Trampling, the Vigilance, and if for some reason they do survive, you've got the Vigilance of all your creatures there. Walking Ballista, I think this kind of goes without saying that this can end the game as well. Being able to sink as much mana into it as you have, you can machine gun the whole board in 1 turn. It's a major threat. Yeva, Nature's Herald, be able to flash this in and then make green creatures also have flash. Most of the creatures in the deck are green of some degree, so flashing it all in. Uvenwald Observer, whenever a creature you control with toughness 4 or greater dies, we get to draw a card. So we've got a few cards in there that allow us to draw when we cast a creature spell, but if they die, we also get to draw. So if they do happen to board wipe us in a bad situation, we will at least get to refill our hand and get some more creatures. Impervious Great Worm. This card always makes people kind of go, what card is that? Just being able to convoke it in or play it for free with a lot of options. Just a 16/16 indestructible creature, even though it doesn't have Trample, even though it should, because it looks like it's doing that in the picture. This is a nasty creature. The Ring Paging Brontodon, since it has Trample itself, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each other land you control. Even if you're just hitting your 1 land drop per turn, you already got a 14/14 Trample. That's scary enough. Champion of Lamholt, creatures with power less than the champions can't block creatures you control, and whenever another creature enters battlefield under your control, you put a 1/1 counter on Champion of Lamholt. So this is very easy for this to be an 8/8, 9/9, 10/10, and then all your creatures are unblockable. So you don't even have to worry about Trample at this point. You can just end the game. Mistcutter Hydra, it can't be countered. It has haste, and it's protected from blue. Blue being the problem in all decks. And then just comes in with all the counters. And then you get some Trample or something like that, and does really good. Goreclaw, the Terror of Kal Sisma, being a 4/3 creature. It's great. Also, creature spells you cast with power 4 or greater cost 2 less to cast, so this really helps us reduce our total mana cost if we're not to the point of being able to just flip our whole library out. And then each other creature we control with power 4 or greater gets +1/+1 against Trample until end of turn. Again, another card that could help us win the whole game. Timur Sabretooth. Just be able to return another target creature you control to its hand. If you do, it gains indestructible. If this is a situation where we're going to lose something, we can activate this ability quickly, multiple times if we need to, and get everything back into our hand, just to keep it safe, and then at least Timur Sabretooth will be indestructible. Kenra Charioteer. Trample, another creature control of Trample. Added this in not too long ago just to get another instance of being able to have Trample in case we don't get some of those other cards that we need. This definitely helps. Zerta Druid, just being able to tap it to get a little bit of mana ramp, and also just do damage to an opponent, just little bits here and there. Forgotten Ancient, whenever a player casts a spell, put a 1/1 counter on Forgotten. So whenever they cast a spell at all, you get that counters immediately, and it's a May ability. But at the beginning of your upkeep, you may move those counters if you want to onto other creatures. So it doesn't say your creatures, it says other creatures, so you could use this in a political way. If it looks like you're going to lose for some reason, which you're not going to, you could move all the counters onto someone else's creatures and give them a little bit of help. Wolfbriar Elemental. This can get rid of hand. I didn't think it would be as great as it was, being able to multi-kicker it for every forest and then put a 2/2 green wolf creature token on the battlefield. Yeah, you sink some mana into this, especially with Nikia on the battlefield, and you're walking in easily with 4 wolves without a problem. And it sets a board state right from the get-go. Sakura Tribe Elder, also known as Steve. Sack him to get that basic land onto the battlefield, tapped. Just a great way to get ahead. Soul of the Harvest, being a great 6/6 trample creature as it is, but also being able to get that draw strip as well. Terastodon, I think a lot of people tend to not put him in, being he's at 8 cost, and you may destroy up to 3 target non-creature permanents, and then they get the 3/3 elephant. So if you had to, you could destroy your own creatures. Not likely you're going to. Often you're going to destroy some problem pieces, maybe all of one opponent, maybe one from each opponent, depending how it is. They may get a 3/3 elephant. But, you know, if you're dealing with a problem artifact, a problem enchantment, a problem planeswalker, it's worth it to just get ahead. So definitely a good defense. Biogenic Ooze. Being able to put an extra 2/2 ooze out and then put a 1/1 counter each ooze you control, and also being able to create oozes when you sink mana into it. It can be very destructive overall, and it just gives you some board state if you don't have anything else to sink mana into. Runic Armasaur. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana, you may draw a card. You're going to be drawing a card often. Most people's commanders have those activate abilities, or land with activate abilities. This is pretty often. You're going to get the draw step quite a bit. Acidic Slime. I know a lot of people don't put this in decks anymore. I think it's great still. It may be a higher cost for only a 2/2, but having that death touch in there and have the option of destroying an artifact, an enchantment, or a land. Most people don't like it when you blow up their lands, but if they're playing something like Strip Mine or Ghost Quarter, you might need to shut that down before they start really popping off. Xenagos, God of Revels. Well, it's just amazing. I mean, you activate him and get that buff, that +X/+X. You know, you can put this onto one creature. You basically Voltron that creature up to be ending one of your opponent's lives. Proud Wildbonder, recently added in. Having its own trample, which isn't the main piece, but creatures you control with trample you may have this creature assigned its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. So basically, you give all your creatures trample, and then everybody's unblockable as it is, so they deal with their full damage. Rubble Hulk, being power and toughness equal number of lands you control. I mean, this is often going to be a 10/10, or if you want to blood rush this in and put something else, make that something else twice as strong, this can really scare people. Verdurous Gearhulk has its own trample, and it'll distribute 4 1/1 counters among any number of target creatures we control. If we're not in a strong board state right away, we could put these on something like Sakura Tribe Elder, which now becomes a little bit bigger creature that now becomes a threat that wouldn't normally be there, just to set some board state. And then when things start to stabilize, sacrifice him, go get our land, and kind of get that process going. There's a lot of options with this. There's so many things you can do. Those counters are really versatile. And that's our last creature, so let's get into our lands. Of course, we have Terramorphic Expanse and Evolving Wilds to go tutor up what we really want. Spire Garden, of course. Rugged Highlands, just a little extra life. Shivan Oasis. Cinderglade. Stomping Ground, our Shockland. Rootbound Crag. Gruul Guildgate. Game Trail, Kazandu Refuge, a little bit more land, Bonder's Enclave, if we just want a little bit more draw. We'll always probably hit that power 4 or greater is pretty easy for us. Blighted Woodland, being able to sacrifice it to search for 2 more lands, that's great. Often that's just a double cultivate for us. And the card that could definitely end the game is got Kessig Wolf Run, being able to just put X red and green into it. Target creature gets that +X/+0 and gains trample. You could just throw this as a curveball into a creature they wouldn't even expect you to attack with, and you could just end the game with it. Fertile Thicket, looking at the top 5 cards of our library, get a basic land from them, and just kind of help us get ahead for the rest of the game. Castle Garenbrig, being able to just, of course, get the green mana, but to sink 4 mana in to get 6 green, to spend only creature spells or activate abilities of creatures. It's a good investment. That green mana for us is great, especially with Nikia on the battlefield. We're able to get that extra land in that case, and just use that mana to ramp up something real big or some big powerful thing like Blood Rush. Memorial to Unity. Green mana, of course, and then sacrifice it to look at the top 5 cards to reveal a creature among them and put it in our hand. Then put the rest on the bottom of the library in any order. The only downside with this, of course, is revealing that creature, so you are kind of putting a clock on yourself. Depending on what you have in your hand, they're going to know that you're going to try to get something out, especially if you're getting like Rubble Hulk, something that's obvious that you're going to Blood Rush that. So this card, you guys just got to be careful on. And to our basic lands, we have 13 forests. Hopefully shinies, of course, if we can, or full arts. They just look nicer in the deck. And then into our mountains, we have 8 of those as well. And that's my take on Nikia of the Old Ways. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you soon.